My name is David Gallo. I'm the director of the AIFC Academy of Law, and we'd like to welcome all of you who have joined us today from literally across the globe for this learning and development event. This is another segment of our webinar series at the Academy of Law that we have been offering on a complimentary basis for the past couple months. And first and foremost, we hope you're safe, we hope you're well, and we very much wish you the best as you continue to move your law firms and your businesses forward in the face of these very unprecedented times. So all the best with that. Today we have a very exciting webinar. It will last about 1 hour. I'm going to introduce the distinguished speaker momentarily. But we're very excited to bring this topic to you today. The subject is artificial intelligence, ethics and regulations in Central Asia. The format today will be this. The primary speaker will go ahead and deliver his slides. We will have time for Q&A at the end. Throughout the presentation, please send in your written comments via chat, and you'll see your icon there at the bottom of your screen. And my colleague Almas will be fielding those questions, and when we get to the end, we'll be able to address those. And finally, at the end of Q&A, my colleague and friend, Dr. Professor Alexander Vandeput, who is the chairman of the Academy of Law Advisory Board, will be coming on to provide some concluding remarks. So with that, let me introduce today's lecturer. He's Dr. Ammar Younas, CEO of IMO Innovation Consultants. Dr. Younas is originally from Pakistan, and since 2009, he has resided in various Central Asian countries. He consulted to the Research Institute of Legal Policy under the Ministry of Justice of Uzbekistan as an international expert for writing a new civil code. At the very young age of 21, he earned his medical doctor, his MD degree, making him one of the youngest medical doctors in the world. And he earned 6 other degrees in areas including finance, political marketing, international relations, jurisprudence, human rights, and Chinese law from various institutions in Kazakhstan, Italy, Lebanon, and China. In 2019, he coined the term Central Asia Tech Law, or CAT Law, and started advocating the idea of a generalized artificial intelligence policy for Central Asia. Dr. Younas launched a startup business named IMO Innovation Consultants to provide training, digital services, and consultations to the tech giants, business, state institutions, and academia about digital transformation, technology regulations, policies, and ethics. With that, it's my sincere pleasure and honor to turn the floor over to Dr. Ammar Younas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David, for this wonderful introduction, and thank you very much to AIFC Academy of Law for organizing this webinar. Actually, this is the second webinar of this series of webinars of these technology law. I am very honored to talk about today's very important and contemporary issue, which is AI ethics and regulations in Central Asia. Can you please tell me if my slides are visible, Mr. David?
Yes, they are. They look perfect, and we see your image also in the corner.
Okay, so that's fine. Okay. So I'm going to talk about AI ethics and regulations in Central Asia, and just an overview of the content. First of all, I will talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? What are different types of artificial intelligence? Some of the emerging challenges. Then I will talk about artificial intelligence in Central Asia, some of the contemporary development in the area of policy and regulation. Then we will talk about artificial intelligence and ethics. And finally, I will talk about the Central Asian society in the era of artificial intelligence, what kind of challenges Central Asia is facing, what is about to come, and how we can prepare ourselves. And finally, hopefully you will have some questions and I will be able to answer those questions. A little bit theoretical background. If you look at this image, This person is called as Ned Ludd from Industrial Revolution from Europe. So the Ned Ludd is famous because of his revolutionary ideas. So when the Industrial Revolution started, companies started introducing different types of machineries, and the process of automation began in Europe. So this was the person who actually revolted, and he said that we don't need these machineries. Actually, he was kind of afraid of these technological development, and he was thinking that if the machines will take over the human, then how they will work, where they will find jobs. And basically he was talking about unemployment. And this is the same thing what we are talking today when we talk about artificial intelligence. And one of the threats which artificial intelligence is posing is the threat of this unemployment. And today also, if a person who is not very progressive in terms of technology, and he is not able to accept the technological development, we say that he is a Luddite. So, or the Luddites are those persons, those people who are against this technological progression. Many people say that this technological development is nothing new. It is just a new form of what we already had. We had these pyramids of Egypt, or we can find some constructions done by some people from before Christ era. And scientists are agreed on this, that they might have been using very sophisticated technologies at that time. So many people think that this new technological development is nothing new for mankind. But if we look at these images circulating on social media, you might have seen this on Facebook, that this single drone has made so many people jobless. Then we need to worry a little bit about technological development, and this is something which we are going to talk today. This particularly for lawyers is even more threatening. Last year in 2019, in November, I think, this news was published in a Chinese newspaper. So what was discussed in this news, that there was a case in a court. It is a cyber court, so you can say that the judge is a robot, and the both parties, they were represented by the robots, and the verdict was given. So it was entirely new experience for the whole legal world, that a lawyer is robot, and the judge is robot, and the court itself is online. So when we see these types of things, we as a lawyer also worry about the technological developments. I have seen this article. This article is published 3 days ago on World Economic Forum, written by a Russian scholar, where he's talking about the global digital human rights. Not very new idea, but how he has contextualized is very interesting. So he's saying that in the post-COVID world, the digitalization of legal system will happen. And there is a possibility that there will be violation of different rights, and there will be different digital risks, and we should be ready for that. And he's also mentioning that we need a new global social contract. So this is the global social contract about which I talked in my last webinar when I was giving the theoretical background of legal progression of technology in Central Asia, that this technology is a new introduction. So this technology has a potential to disturb our existing social contract. So this is the same thing which he is saying. And he's demanding for a new declaration of digital human rights, a very interesting idea to accommodate the rights of artificial intelligence bodies or the people dealing with them. So the question rises that what is artificial intelligence? Unfortunately, there is no single definition, and this concept of narrow AI is already existing. So what is the narrow AI? Narrow AI is the artificial intelligence which is used for a specific purpose. So there is no definition of artificial intelligence. Everyone is trying to define artificial intelligence as per his own understanding. For example, we have heard about autonomous vehicles. People are talking about artificial intelligence being used in these vehicles. Maybe you have seen these maps which are being introduced by different taxi companies who guide you on your road. For some people, it is artificial intelligence. For some people, the Microsoft Word giving you, correcting your spelling mistake is artificial intelligence, or a translator in your mobile is artificial intelligence. So all of these things, they are relative when it comes to defining AI. But this is something very interesting, or the beginning of the competition of artificial intelligence versus human. You can say in 1997, this IBM Deep Sea machine, which is actually a chess player, and it defeated the world champion at that time. So it became very famous. This case was very famous, and people were talking about AI taking over the mankind. So this is a type of narrow AI. Narrow AI means when an artificial intelligence does only one thing. The other concept is general AI. So the general AI, or you can say that the super intelligent artificial intelligence, or it is not designed for a specific purpose. It can do many things. So super intelligence, what does it mean by super intelligence? The super intelligence means a machine which can outperform the human work, or which can do things what humans cannot do. And there are different categories of general AIs or super intelligence. The first type is speed super intelligence. So what is speed super intelligence? As the name shows, if an artificial intelligence can perform human work on a better speed, means better than a human, we can say that it is a speed human intelligence or speed super intelligence. Then we have collective super intelligence. What does it mean by collective superintelligence? Means there are different AI bodies or different machines, and if you combine the work of all of these machines collectively, it will be much better than an average human. So we can say that it is a collective superintelligence. And lastly, the quality superintelligence means we have a machine which can perform the human labor at a better quality. Means the quality of the work of this AI or machine is much better than the quality of the work which is done by a normal human. So now we have discussed two types of AI: narrow AI and general AI. And now a little bit about the growth. So growth is happening exponentially. It is not 1 plus 1. It is 1 plus 1 and 2 plus 2 and then power 2, 2 and so on. So the growth is happening exponentially. A little bit about the growth in artificial intelligence. If you want to just have an image in your mind, you can see that this image at the left side, it is a human, and this, which is apparently a human skull, it is the skull of artificial intelligence. Or if you want to visualize this thing, you can say that the humans are like chimpanzees, and if we talk about artificial intelligence, it is like Einstein. Or if you want to draw a spectrum to understand where AI stands, so you can see that for comparison, the Albert Einstein is taking lead, but artificial intelligence goes far beyond the Albert Einstein. So this is a graph which shows the calculations per second. At present, we are using different computers, and the computer, one of the advanced computers, it can calculate. The calculations are as equal as the brain of an insect. And if you want to see in terms of existing computers, at present we have this Core i7 i9. So this Core i7 quad, it is approximately equal to the brain of a mouse. So you can see that the growth in this calculations per second, or the production of computer CPUs, or the computational technology, the graph shows an exponential growth. So here was a question that what do you think that there will be a 50% chance that machines will have human level intelligence. And you can define this as you want, but unfortunately we are not allowed to interact, but the approximate answer is 2045. So by the time of 2045, we will have a machine which will outperform the human, or which will perform much better than a human. And scientists say that this machine will be the last invention, because this machine will able to do anything whatever it wants. So why these machines worried us, or why we are worried about artificial intelligence taking over? The only issue is that we are worried about their judgmental powers. So machines, at present, they don't have the judgmental power as the human have, or the machine cannot do those judgmental calls. For example, if you want to eat something, you know what you want to eat, and you can make a judgmental call. But for machine, it is very difficult to give that judgmental call, or it cannot predict what you want to eat. So this is the only difference which we can say that humans are much better when it comes to making a judgmental call. And this person, Dr. Pete Hurt from Institute of Advanced, as you know, he wrote a very famous book, Physics and Biology. And he was saying about this Asian game Go, that it will take 100 years before a computer beats human at Go. And you have seen this happening in 2016. There is a very, famous case, and you can watch this documentary on YouTube also. There is a 1 hour documentary on this incident, when the Google DeepMind Go game defeated the grandmaster of Go, Mr. Lee. And this was the case which was taken very seriously by Asian societies, because Go is not just a game; it is something which they are attached very emotionally. So this Go defeated Mr. Lee, who was a grandmaster, and then this AlphaGo Zero, which is also a computerized game, defeated the Go. So we not only have this Go, which defeated the grandmaster, but now we have advanced technologies who defeated that machine. So you can see the graph of exponential growth, and it is just a symbolic representation that how intelligent these machines are becoming. In 2017, this interesting case happened when this Libratus, which is also an automated poker game, defeated 4 of the grandmasters of poker, and case came into the news. So what is artificial intelligence? As I mentioned, there is no single definition, and we are not worried about this narrow artificial intelligence. We are actually worried about this general artificial intelligence. So how the machine learning and law are related? Machine learning and law. So first of all, we need to understand that when we talk about artificial intelligence, we are not talking about automation. What is automation? Automation is you use any machine to make the human work easy, and basically you feed the instruction to this machine, and the process become automated. But when it comes to the AI has potential to learn by its own. You just feed data, and AI can predict different patterns, and based on those patterns, it can give its output. So automation is a different process, and machine learning is a different process. And at present, if we talk about algorithms are doing much better than human judgment. We are using them in different scenarios. For example, in gaming, it is being used. Different healthcare providers are using artificial intelligence. Especially in the era of COVID-19, we have seen so many applications of artificial intelligence. And when it comes to the loan approval or providing the financial services by banks, artificial intelligence is being used, and obviously it is posing many challenges. So artificial intelligence, or the machine learning, which is related to artificial intelligence, or subcategory of artificial intelligence, is actually predicting, or is actually trying to make that judgmental call. Mr. More introduced the Moore's law. And what he said, basically, he said that the density of the transistors on a circuit will double every 2 years. So basically, he's saying that the machines will become advanced every 2 years. And this was a standard to see if machine is progressing or not. But if you look at this graph, it is not doubling, but it is showing an exponential growth. So many people are now challenging Mr. More that his law has outdated, or some people think that it is still relevant. But some of the examples I want to show, that these self-driving cars in 2004, they looked something like this. And in 2000, in 2017 or 18, we had these self-driving cars, which are much sophisticated than which I previously shown, and they are using very sophisticated technology. And you can see this explanation that how it is navigating through the roads, this machine. And these types of algorithms shows that how you feed the data into it, and how this machine respond to the data. And if you come to the Central Asia, we see these types of examples, and we say that we are already doing much better than the machines. So another example, when we talk about AI taking humans, we talk about the skeleton. We say that this skeleton of the robot is a real challenge. We want to make a humanoid robot, but this humanoid robot should have a human-like skeleton. In 2016, we had a robot who was unable to climb on these stairs. In 2017, we have a robot which can do these back somersaults. And in 2018, we have a robot which can open the doors and can walk through these gates. And this is a very interesting video. I suggest you to go on YouTube and type cheetah robots. Recently they have been introduced, and just look at this video. So basically, I'm talking about the technology is becoming more and more sophisticated, and more is law that the density of transistor will double every 2 years. We have surpassed this threshold. And technology is not only the area where we can see exponential growth. If we talk about GDP, the GDP has also exponentially grown in last decade. And this is another example of human population, that human population has shown exponential growth. And even more contemporary example is the Facebook users. We have seen that the number of users of Facebook has grown exponentially. Now coming to our topic, which is the AI in Central Asia, and I have tried to categorize the AI development in Central Asia into 3 categories and the challenges related to it. The first category is when we talk about technological progress or AI in Central Asia, there are so many buzzwords. People are confused about legal tech and tech law, and fintech and different financial technologies or technology regulations. And the problem is that there is no dialogue between applied scientists and social scientists. Applied scientists are working by their own, and legal scientists are working by their own, and politicians are working by their own. So this is a first issue. Then if we talk about intellectual infrastructure, I am talking about academia. There are not many institutions or research centers which are actually seriously thinking about developing AI regulations in Central Asia. So we have policy people, we have politicians, we have legal scholars, but at present they are not very interested in developing technological regulations. And how the technology is being regulated, mostly the ideas are imported. So how it happens when you import a technology from outside, you import the law as well from outside. So technology is being imported into Central Asia by using the laws which have been made for those countries who actually made these technologies. Means there is no contextualizing with Central Asia. So these are three different categories. And a little bit about recent development. Starting from in 2017, the president of Kazakhstan introduced a plan for modernization of the country, where he talked about artificial intelligence development also, and many projects including our this AIFC financial center Astana, and some projects related to Nazarbayev University has been introduced. This is all the part of this modernization. And in 2018, this digital Kazakhstan was introduced, and you can see the development and the hard work which is being done by AIFC and some of these other institutions. These are all related to the digital Kazakhstan concept. Recently this year, in the beginning, the Prime Minister, he was addressing, and he specifically talked about strategic need for the use of AI. And I think that this was the first time when a Central Asian leader uh, exclusively mentioned about the strategic use of AI. And related to this, there are different projects, and a national cluster of artificial intelligence is being planned in Kazakhstan. So let's see how they do this. We should be very hopeful about it. If we talk about Kyrgyzstan, Kyrgyzstan actually started the process of digitalization very early in this region. And a very important event happened last year when they organized AI. Was a very big conference where different scientists presented their ideas about technological development in Central Asia. Many scholars from AI background actually talked about AI governance. In 2019, the government of Kyrgyzstan actually passed a decree for implementation of concept of digital transformation or digital Kyrgyzstan. Previously, it was Tazakom. Tazakom was a project, and now it has been converted into digital Kyrgyzstan, and introduced, and AI development is also one of them. If we talk about Pakistan, hasn't introduced a formal policy or regulation, but there are some young tech enthusiasts. For example, this boy, which I have mentioned, he has his non-governmental organization. He studied in States in Stanford, and he is enthusiastic Tajikistan, and he thinks that in future the Tajikistan will take lead in AI. So let's stay hopeful about the ambitions of Tajikistan as well. So Turkmenistan, in Turkmenistan, people are working on AI. There are companies which are working on AI, but Turkmenistan haven't introduced an AI regulation or AI policy. But if we talk about technology laws in Turkmenistan, they are very developed. They are much developed than some of the other Central Asian countries. So they have very sophisticated intellectual property laws. They have very sophisticated technology regulation law. When it comes to the AI, they haven't introduced anything yet. Uzbekistan is the country enthusiastic about the technological development, also working on the digitalization of different state bodies, and it is the only country region at present which has introduced an Uzbek centered AI policy. Recently, last month, there was a presidential decree in which it proposed that Uzbekistan should come up with its own AI policy. So there are different things which can be discussed under the heading of the Uzbek AI policy. And I also wrote a paper. You can find this paper on internet by just Googling. And last year I proposed an idea of Uzbek centered AI policy, and you know, couple of months ago no one was talking about it, and recently there is a presidential decree that yes, we need an Uzbek centered AI policy. So this is basically an overall summarized version of what is happening in the region when it comes to the AI ethics and regulations. And you can say that we are at a very initial stages. Now the next portion of my discussion is AI ethics. What is AI ethics, and why artificial intelligence concerned with ethical issues? What types of ethical issues are there? And then a philosophical concept, that humanism in the age of AI. Many people are talking about it. I have seen Central Asian philosophers, politicians, and anthropologists. They are openly talking about their concerns about humanism or the threats being posed by artificial intelligence. So the main debates, if we want to categorize the main debates related to the ethics of AI in Central Asia, you can categorize into the morality debates, the morality of technology or morality in technology. What does it mean? Morality of technology in general, about the use of technology, and morality in technology means that what sort of technology, what sort of morality we should introduce inside the machine, means how the machine will take a moral decision. So these are two categories. The first category is morality of technology, means how humans should use technology, and the other issue related to the morality is that what sort of morality you should introduce inside the machine so that the machine can take a moral decision. The other category is about fairness and biases and stereotypes towards technology. Many people are just rejecting this whole idea of artificial intelligence because they consider that artificial intelligence is being used by tech giants to control the small companies, or the developed countries are using these advanced technologies to control the developing countries. So these types of biases are there. And then the third category is AI governance, or governance with AI, or governing AI, that how you can regulate AI, or how can you use AI to regulate the government, or what kind of technologies blended with AI we need for a better government in the region. So these are three categories in which you can you know, connect, if you want to connect the dots, all the debates which are happening around AI ethics in Central Asia related to one of these categories, as I think. These are some of the other issues related to the AI. Some of them I have mentioned. Many people thinking like Luddites that this is disturbing the industry, means the process of automation. People will lose their jobs. There is income inequality. There are threats posed to the privacy. Technology is discriminating. And what about the human autonomy? So these are some of the concerns of the critics of AI technologies in Central Asia, and I will try to address some of these issues. And this is also an issue, very interesting issue. You have seen this video circulating on social media, and you can contextualize this with Central Asia, because Central Asia is a traditional society. Especially the generation gap is a huge between two generations, pre-Soviet and post-Soviet, and in terms of not only in terms of mentality, but in terms of technological adaptation, there is a generation gap. And you have seen parents being worried about their kids who are too much into technology. So this is also a threat I would consider to the technological progression in Central Asia. When it comes to the destroying jobs or people losing their jobs, yes, this is a problem. And statistics shows that in the middle of 19th century, 90% of Americans, they worked in agriculture, and now it's about 2%. Most of the people switch their job, but the agriculture is happening. And this agriculture is happening by using new technologies. So technology has actually taken over in agriculture sector. And if you go to the bank, even though this ATM machine was introduced in 60s, but much of the process is automated. Now, if you go to the bank and you have to do a transaction or money transfer, of even if you have to stand in the queue, you see that there is an automated machine which will be there to help you. When it comes to the inequality, yes, there are cases of inequality, and you have seen this article being circulated, and yes, this is a real challenge. And I suggest you to read this article, The Economics of Superstar, which actually talks about the causes of inequality. Very enlightening topic. I recommend to read this. When it comes to the discrimination, there are some biases, but there are some realities as well. So AI is AI is beneficial and AI is biased as well. And I think that the problem is not because the technology should be like this. The problem is that the developers are those who are biased. So it is not the problem of the technology, it's the problem of the developer. So if you want to counter this problem of discrimination, you have to be technologically advanced. This is a classic example of morality of artificial intelligence, and philosophers and legal scholars, they have seen the discussions between consequentialist and deontologists. So end justifies the mean, or you care about the action no matter what is the end or what is the end result. So there is a classic example, trolley problem. So what is this trolley problem? That the train is coming and the train is divided, and there are two lines. On one line there are 5 people, and on in your hand. Now you have a choice. You can kill 5 people, or you can kill 1 person. You have a choice. So how you will decide being posed by the self-driving cars, that how the self-driving cars will make decision when a similar problem come in front of them. So for example, look at this image. There is a self-driving car, and there is one old lady, and there is a small child or a small girl. A self-driving car has an option to either kill this old lady or either kill this small child. So how the AI driven car or self-driving car will take a decision? Again, this is a scenario of trolley problem, and this is something, the morality in AI, which I was talking, and scientists are arguing about this, and definitely it is a big problem. And when it comes to the morality of technology, we have these killer robots, or the robots being used for destructive purposes, or technology being used for the benefits of individuals, not for the groups. There are serious challenges about which we need to make laws and regulations in Central Asia. So how the AI concerned with ethical issues? There are problems related to algorithm transparency. Many people complain that they see the same friends when they open their timeline or Facebook, or many people think that they are being discriminated by the Instagram algorithm. So these are the real challenges. And then there are questions related to the personalization of technologies. The technology which is beneficial for one person, maybe it is destructive for the other person. And then the other question is that is it possible for lawyers and specialists to incorporate the law into technology or encode legislation into machines so that the machine can do automated decisions. And in the beginning, I gave you the example of this Chinese code, which is a smaller version of this big problem. Then we are talking about responsible AI, and then we are talking about sustainable AI systems. So this is something which is a real, not many people are talking about it. And these are the areas in which we need to make new laws and regulations. So at institutional level, some things are happening. For example, there are some institutions who are actually working on this. MIT Media Lab and Harvard Research Centers in 2017, they actually formally started these initiatives in which they talked about AI and justice and AI ethics and AI equality. Now we have many other organizations who are working in the same area, means AI ethic. For example, IEE, Global Initiative on Ethics of Autonomous and Intelligent System. I am also the member of this committee. So what they are doing, they are actually developing ethical principles so that the technology people can follow, or the government could follow when they make laws related to artificial intelligence and the technology. And then the World Economic Forum, you know about it, they often organize conferences and seminars and even full thematic forums related to AI ethics and AI regulations. And not only World Economic Forum, World Peace Forum last year in 2019, there was a AI in governance forum. So this World Economic Forum is when social and applied scientists, they are coming and they are sitting and doing dialogue and thinking about the ethical AI. This is the Chinese Research Center for Intelligence, Ethics and Safety. It is located in Beijing Academy of Artificial, Beijing AI Principles of Artificial Intelligence. So, I mean, previously legal scholars were thinking that Chinese don't introduce their own ethical principles, how to utilize technology or how to facilitate technology or how to deal with those people who are dealing with technology. So they have come up with this idea. Yes, and this is my theory. This is my theory about Central Asia tech law. I also, being a region, should come up with its own centralized AI policy. European Union has its own technology regulations and AI policy at European Union level. Americans have this, Chinese have this. So why not Central Asia should also come up with its centralized AI policy, and they should work together because there are more similarities than differences when we zoom out and look at the Central Asian society. So in future, if there will be AI ethics and regulatory principles, I think that they should be contextualized with Central Asia, or Central Asia should propose its own AI ethical principles. And maybe Astana International Financial Center can take lead and can seriously think about introducing these Central Asia AI principles future. So how these AI principles look, here is a graph. Different you can see that different companies or different research centers or different organizations, they introduce their AI principles, and if you want to visualize all of them, they are more or less similar, and all of them, they talk about responsible AI, safety, peaceful, sustainable, these types of principles. Quickly, I will go through the Central Asian society and AI. Also, I have categorized them. So the first thing is that if you look at the religion and Central Asian values, there is a possibility of contradiction. For example, in Japan, now there are robots which are being used for religious purposes. Means You don't have to go to a human for these religious rituals. You can just invite a robot, and robot can do what a religious person would do. Uh, and also the technology which is being used by religious people, or the technology which is creating the religious purposes, there are so many concerns related to this. Even you have seen that many people are arguing about the use of loudspeakers by religious people, and there are so many debates on it, that should we allow, means should government allow religious people to use these loudspeakers, or should we take care about the people who don't want to listen this. So in future, when the AI will be technologically advanced, or these machines will come which are which will facilitate the work of religious people, or vice versa, then there is a possibility of conflict. And Central Asia is a little bit diverse when it comes to the nomadic societies and sedentary societies. Uh, it has been observed by anthropologists that the use of technology which is done by the nomadic people and the people who has been residing at one place, it is different. And this is something which I have told earlier, that we need to contextualize the artificial intelligence with the region. Means the technology at present which is being used, or the ethical principles which are being adopted, these ethical principles are given by those people who have been residing at one place. Means we didn't see the nomadic technologists proposing ethical principles. So this makes it more clear. So when we talk about ethical principles or AI regulations, we need to consider this element also, because we do consider, when we make any other law, we consider these elements, that we are making these laws for people who has been residing at a place permanently, or the people who are nomadic. Then we talk about sustainability of artificial intelligence. You have heard about sustainable development goals of UN, and under these sustainable development goals, many people are talking about blending AI. So people are saying that we should achieve those sustainable development goals by using AI, and AI is very important and essential when we talk about sustainability in region. So there is a need to find correlation between sustainability and artificial intelligence. Means when you are importing technology or when you are producing technology, you should think about sustainable not only for the international audience, but for your own people as well. Then we cannot neglect the role of regional and international actors. For example, Central Asia is highly influenced by America, Russia, and China. And those America, Russia, and China, they are actually contesting when it comes to AI politics. So in future, what sort of artificial intelligence Central Asia will adopt? Central Asia will adopt Chinese artificial intelligence, or Central Asia will adopt Russian or American artificial intelligence. So this is the time when Central Asian lawmakers or Central Asian politicians should think about this scenario, because those countries who are actually propagating artificial intelligence, they are contesting among themselves. This is an interesting example. The Central Asian audience know about it, that when there was election of Russian Federation presidency, this robot Alisa by Yandex, he came or she came as a contestant. So there were like many people in thousands who actually wrote a petition that yes, we want Alicia to run for election. And this is something which leads to the discussion of politics of AI in Central Asia. AI versus democracy means AI can facilitate democracy. On the other side, AI can be a threat for democracy. So artificial intelligence can be used to facilitate the democracy. On the other side, artificial intelligence can restrict democracy. And Central Asia, you know that very, very sensitive when it comes to the question of political systems. And if we talk about the automation or the general use of technology, the discussions have already emerged about e-governments. If a government introduce an digital program, the opposition oppose this. And if opposition demands something which is related to digitalization, government oppose this. So this politics of e-government can also be seen. And I gave you an example earlier when I was talking about Kyrgyzstan, that previously this project, which was called as Taza Kom, originally introduced by one regime. And when the new government came, they just renamed it and made it Digital Kyrgyzstan, so that they can pose it as their own. So you can see some of the other examples also. So there is a huge politics going on when it comes to the use of technology. If we talk about the ethic of technology in Central Asia, one of the examples to elaborate is the use of facial recognition technologies. Or all the Central Asian countries, you know, they have bought these security cameras from China. And Huawei, for example, has installed these cameras, and many people are arguing about the privacy versus security. Many people think that their security has been insured on the cost of privacy, means there is no privacy. And many technologists are saying that data has been compromised because you have imported these cameras from another country. So this can also lead to the political conflict, means a government buys a technology from outsiders. This is a good point to battle for oppositions, that their security or privacy has been compromised because the regime has bought a technology from somewhere else. So in conclusion, I will pose 3 questions. The first question is that how we can use law to incentivize AI. Means we need law. Is the purpose of today's discussion. We need law so that we can promote AI. But how? And the second question is, how do we use law and policy to regulate the use of new technologies? Means new technologies will come, but how we can use law and policies to regulate those technologies, because these technologies, as I mentioned, are beneficial for some people and destructive for other people. And the final is that how we can use AI to improve the law, means how we can use technology itself to benefit the lawyers or the legal system or the law in general. So with these questions, I will conclude my presentation by saying this, that all of these outcomes or all of these positive or negative outcomes can dilute to this, they narrow down to this point, that do we need AI for Central Asia, or what sort of future we want for Central Asia? If we want a technologically advanced future, then we need to answer these questions, or if we don't want, then the things goes as they are going. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Younas, for that very informative presentation. Highly interesting and certainly relevant. We do have time for some Q&A, and in fact, some questions have come in from the audience. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Almas, who will read the first question.
Yes, thank you, David. So first question is from Ainur. She is asking, how do we distribute the wealth created by machines? What happens after the end of jobs for humans?
Yes, very interesting question, and I have discussed some of the elements of this. So the shorter version of the answer is that if technology is progressing, humans should also progress. If scientists are updating technologies, humans should work on upgrading or updating themselves. You have seen in the COVID period, we have actually upgraded ourselves. We have adopted a minimalistic lifestyle by using technology, and we have compromised and even sacrificed on many things which we have been doing previously. So it is a minimalistic upgradation, means we have decided what we need and what we don't need, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. If we talk about benefits of AI, we cannot say that there are no benefits. There are benefits. You are worried about technology taking over. I think that if we start thinking right now on upgrading ourselves by capacity building, this problem can be resolved. What we are doing right now, we are not upgrading ourselves, we are not investing in capacity building of ourselves. We are actually discussing about the negative impacts of technology, which I think that you are wasting your energy on something on which you shouldn't doing. So the only answer to this is that if you are worried about technological advancements, or if you are worried about technology taking over, you should right now start doing your own capacity building. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So next question is, when it comes to liability, who is responsible for AI? Is it just developer of system?
Yes, very interesting question. And thank you once again to AIFC Academy of Law. The last webinar, I discussed about it in detail. You can find the video on YouTube. So the liability is a problem. There are different, but one thing is that autonomous output of AI. This is a legal question, that a robot produce something autonomous or something by its own. Who will be the owner of this thing? For example, robots nowadays, they are writing books. Robots nowadays, they are making maps. Robots nowadays, they are, producing which are being, used for very complex technologies. And the people claiming rights for them. So the thing is that if you are worried about liability, we have to resolve the issue that who autonomous output of AI, means if a robot produce something, who will be the owner? Benefit of this autonomous output of AI, that person should be liable if the AI does something wrong. So who will get, that person should be liable if AI does something wrong.
Okay, thank you. So considering the timing, I propose to have one more question.
Yes, please.
It's from our guests. How important is increasing AI for increasing someone's ethical capacity, and how to know that potential?
So there are main issues related to the ethics of AI. One, I mentioned that the ethics of use of technology, and that AI can be destructive for mankind. The other issue is that what sort install in the AI, and I gave example, the example of autonomous vehicles, that how the vehicle will decide that it can or it can kill a small child. So these are two categories. How to overcome the problem, or in this the problem, if we contextualize with this region, is that there is no dialogue. Means applied scientists are working on technology by their own, and legal scholars, they are just posing their concerns, or they are just talking about risk management. The optimal version that applied sciences and social scientists should come and sit together and discuss in this region. If we talk about what is happening internationally, I have given some institutions, research centers, they are actually inviting people, so that people from all the domains or all the stakeholders, academia, research, industry, politics, law, they should come and sit and discuss. So I think that we should initiate in Central Asia and hopefully this will bring positive outcomes for Central Asian region.
Okay, I guess we can finish. So thank you to our guests, and you can send your questions to our email. David?
Yes.
Yes, I'll turn the floor over to Professor Dr. Alexander Van de Putte, who will make a few concluding remarks today.
Thank you, David, and also thank you, Ammar, for this presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you at the beginning. I was actually in a meeting with the AIFC governor. We're actually doing a lot of reviews on KPIs these days. So it's kind of the semi-annual review, which is, by the way, very much needed. But obviously, your topic is also very much needed. And it's a topic that actually is very close to my heart, but I look more at it from a governance perspective, a corporate governance perspective. I'm working on it, for example, with the, I don't know whether you're familiar with the Oxford UHERO Center for Practical Ethics, but also with the IOD, the Institute of Directors in the United Kingdom, and its counterpart, the National Association of Corporate Directors in the United States. And the positive is that actually AI and ethics has entered the boardroom, and not just recently. In the United States, interestingly, it followed after 9/11. And where actually, you may be familiar with Professor Zuboff from Harvard Business School. She wrote a couple of years ago, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. So after 9/11, legislation was actually made in order to allow broad surveillance on even US citizens. And one of the arguments she's actually using is that actually, well, we gave broad powers for the surveillance society to actually materialize, but these broad powers have actually stayed. And now with COVID-19, actually the question is, how much are we going to continue to surveil on our citizens, and how actually that data is going to be used? So some of the things we're looking at is obviously privacy and surveillance, the traditional dimensions of artificial intelligence, which has to do with bias, including gender bias, but also bias around religion, ethnicity, and so on, and how that actually enters into the decision-making process. We're not there yet, that's for sure, but it's actually a debate that's picking up a lot of interest from around the world, not only in the regulatory environment, where actually it's very much needed, but also in the business and the corporate governance environment. So we should actually continue these debates, because these are critical issues to be explored. One of the questions actually was about, well, AI is able to grow the pie much faster than actually is using, let's say, traditional technologies, third industrial revolution technologies. The question is, who's going to get what slice of the pie? And that was a question that was recently raised. Now, interestingly, about 4 years ago in Switzerland, where they have a lot of referendums, they actually brought the debate to the people, because that's what referendums are all about, and asked the question whether anybody, whether employed or unemployed in Switzerland, should actually have a minimum wage or not. It was not accepted. But the belief is, if they would do it now, that probably it would be accepted. And then Professor Schiller at Yale University made a similar argument that actually, if we start preparing for this now, we can actually have both high growth, but also inclusiveness. So inclusiveness is yet another aspect that has to do with ethics and AI as well, because what we have noticed, actually based on a book written by Thomas Piketty, that especially in the United Kingdom, but also in the US, especially in the US, but also in the United Kingdom, is that what we see is that inequality is on the rise. And here we're talking about income inequality. We're not talking about inequality linked to gender or any other factors of inequality. So I do thank you. I'm sorry that I was not able to attend the entire session. I did receive your slides. I thank you for that as well. And this is recorded, which is also very positive. So I will be looking at the recording afterwards. Ammar, thank you again. And I believe that you're based in Pakistan. So I hope that all is well there with you. And of course, I see a big smile on David's face. That basically means, well, he's always smiling. So, so talk to you soon. And thanks again for this insightful discussion on a very needed topic, which is AI and the regulation of AI because of its ethical issues.
Thank you, Professor Van de Putte. And Ammar,
thank you very much,
so much
Mr.
again.
David and Mr. Alexander.
And all the best to our audience. And we hope to see everyone again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.